Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the real butter powder. Now this is the butter powder I get from Hoosier Hill Farm, and I buy this on Amazon. You can also buy directly from the company, but a lot of their products you can find on Amazon through Subscribe and Save. The butter isn't currently on there, but their heavy whipping cream and their whole milk powder, I think the buttermilk powder, and some of their other things, they have all kinds. Sour cream, cream cheese. I haven't tried those ones myself, but I have used their powdered milk. I'm talking the whole powdered milk, and I love it. Their white cheddar cheese powder is really good. That's the only one that has some added ingredients that people will have to watch out for. But the rest of the ones I've been using, that's usually the way it is anytime you're talking cheese powders anyway, no matter what company you're getting it from. But the rest of them, like the real butter powder, all that's in this is butter. And so I've been doing a lot of experimenting with this, and I wanted to answer a couple of questions as well as talk about some more of the things I've been using it for and why I'm pretty happy with it, and I will continue to stock up on this. Now, the question I got recently was, what is the purpose of the butter powder? For convenience? Well, absolutely not. It is actually a lot less convenient for some things to use a butter powder in replacement of real fresh butter. But it has its benefits. So the reason I am stocking up on the butter powder is so that I can have it as something to add to my food storage to also extend the fresh butter that I keep in my freezer. And I'm working with it. I'm finding there's ways I can use this in order to keep the fresh butter for using on things where I want to put it on bread or whatever it is. And so one of the things I did right away is use it on popcorn. And you can either put it on your popcorn dry. It does kind of stick to it fairly good, but you can also water it down. Here's the thing about real butter powder. And by the way, I'm going to link to the video I did on dairy products for food storage, and I'll put that down below. There I show me mixing up the butter powder. It's super simple. Just put it in a little bowl or a cup, and then just keep adding water and blending it until you get it the consistency you want. And that's one thing that's kind of cool about it. So if it's something you want to drizzle on popcorn, well, you just add enough water to it until you get it to where you can just pour it over your popcorn. And that's one way to do it. Now, it is pretty good like that, but pretty much anything you're talking about putting butter on, like putting it on your toast or slice of bread, your biscuits, or your popcorn, fresh butter is always going to be best. But one of the other things I did, and this is definitely a decadent thing, and that was putting on the fresh butter, pouring it over the popcorn, and then adding the butter powder over the top of that just to give it even more buttery flavor. And that was actually pretty good, but definitely an excess, not something that I necessarily recommend. But I was playing with it, so I figured why not try it. I was trying all the different ways that you could use it there. And so I also have tried it as a spread, and it's a doable replacement if you don't have any fresh butter to mix it up and spread it on your toast or your bread. Just not near as good, but it'll do in a pinch. But if you have your butter powder in stock, like this one here I'm currently working through, so I'm just leaving it in the container. I am not repackaging all of it. These two here are ones that I repackaged, and I did demonstrate how to do that when you're talking powders in another video that I will also link in the description box down below. Again, don't forget to click on either show more, that should be straight down here right below my channel name, or if you're on a smart device, the little gray arrow you'll see over on this corner just below the video. It's just a little gray triangle. You click on that to open the description box and see all the links and other information we have in there. So anyway, I did do a video demonstration showing how to vacuum seal up powders like this and to keep the powders from getting all over the inside of your vacuum chamber if you're using that, from getting pulled up into your brake bleeder pump or even your food saver machine. So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff when you're working with powders. It can be putting a coffee filter, a muffin liner, you know, those paper ones, a piece of paper towel, or like what I always do is I use some scrap fabric and just put it in a clean cotton fabric And that way I can just keep reusing it. I can just wash it and reuse it as needed. Now there's a lot of questions on should you vacuum seal high fat foods and blah, blah, blah. I did do a video on that, which I'll go ahead and link to down below. That's going to be a matter of choice. So far, I've never had a problem in the many years I vacuum sealed high fat foods into jars, and it keeps it fresh. I would especially recommend, though, with anything as high fat, like your butter powder, anything like that, keep it in a cool and dark place. These are a couple of the important things, and that's going to go with all your food storage anyway. So moving on to talk about a couple other things that I've been using the butter powder in, and one is adding it to my yeast bread. I think I might have said that in that one video, but a lot of times I like to use butter, add a little butter to my yeast bread, and I'll just cut like about a tablespoon or so off and put it into my bread mixture right at the beginning when I'm making up my yeast bread. And I do have that video on that. It's an old one. I think it's about 3 years old now. I'll link to it down below as well so you can see my recipe. But the main difference now that I started trying it, so again I can conserve the fresh butter, was taking about a heaping tablespoon of the butter powder and putting that directly into the flour mixture just before I go to add the warm water in there and to the seeds in the flour mixture, and then let it sit and get bubbly. And it's been working pretty good. You still get that nice butter flavor. You're getting that little bit of fat in there that just adds a little bit more to your bread. And then you can save the spreadable butter for putting on the bread when it comes out of the oven that way. So again, by doing this, I'm able to stretch out the fresh butter by replacing it in certain things. So one thing I just did today before I shot this video, because I wanted to make sure it was going to work, is I decided to make up a couple of just 2 biscuits. So what I did, instead of using any shortening of any kind, I don't use shortening actually. I use palm shortening. I don't use Crisco ever. I stopped doing that years ago. And I do have a pretty good source of palm shortening. I know there's issues with that, but I'll go ahead and link to the one that I use down below. And it is a great replacement for Crisco. But I decided, why not try making the biscuits with just the butter powder and see if it works out. Now, honestly, I was concerned that the biscuits would probably turn out maybe a little tough and dry using the powder instead of adding the palm shortening or coconut oil or whatever it is you prefer to add as your shortening replacement. And I was surprised at how good it turned out. So if you're going to try this in your biscuits, what I did was I had 1 cup of flour, and then the right amounts of baking powder and salt for that smaller amount. And then I put in a heaping tablespoon of the butter powder right to the mix before adding the milk, or the buttermilk if you're going to do that. And that's another option too. You can do the powdered buttermilk and add that in there as well. Then you just add water to your blend. So with the butter powder, a tablespoon, then I added in my milk. Obviously, because it's a butter powder, I did have to add a little bit more milk. I never measure it out anyway. I just pour it in there until I get it, till it all starts to pull together. And then just did them the way I normally would. And I was surprised at how good they turned out. I didn't expect much, but at the same time I wanted to give it a try, but that's why I also wanted to try it on just a small batch to make sure I was going to like it, so I didn't have to throw them out if they were nasty. So anyway, that did work really good. Now there's some other ways I have yet to try it, but I also believe would be really good, like using a sauce such as a fettuccine sauce where you usually have butter and heavy whipping cream. I'm thinking about trying that pretty soon, using both the powdered heavy whipped cream and the powdered butter to get a nice rich fettuccine sauce, and just using water and not adding any more milk to it, and just seeing how well that will turn out. I think if you play with your ratios when you're working with your dairy powders like this, I think you will find something that suits you. And they do give you on the packages, obviously give you some measurements that you can go by, but really I never do that. I usually just start with a powder, add a little bit of water, and then just keep working with it until I get it to the consistency I want it for what I'm going to use it for. And that's what makes working with the powders kind of fun. But that doesn't make it a convenience food, because if you're wanting to make it into a spread, well, it's a little more involved in mixing this with water than cutting a little bit off a stick of butter or unwrapping a stick of butter and using it. So, I wouldn't necessarily call it convenience, other than it is a little bit easier adding to the biscuits because I don't have to cut in the shortening or the butter or whatever it is that you're going to use. I don't have to cut that in. I just put the powder in and mix it up really well, add in the milk and mix that, and then there we go. So in a way, it is a convenience, but that is not when you're talking that anyway, but that is not why I got the butter powder. Now, it is going to have its own expiration date on it, and there are ways I believe you can extend that out. Now, I freeze all the fresh butter we get. We stock up on Costco. If you do not feel comfortable with using my method of vacuum sealing into jars, then yes, you may want to even freeze your butter powder for a longer term. Usually your expiration dates that are on such things will last far longer than the date they put. They have to put that on there mostly to protect themselves. I would say vacuum sealing it into jars is going to extend that life even longer. People always ask me, well, how long would that be? Well, I don't know, because the butter like this is a new thing to me, but I've been storing whole milk powder for many years and have had no issues with the ones that came in the cans, like the goat milk powder, or the stuff that I repackaged myself, or the ones that come in the Mylar bags. I just leave them in the bags they came in when it's like that. But if you're buying your milk powders in like a plastic bag or a foil bag, I recommend repackaging it either into jars or good heavy-duty Mylar bags rather than leaving it in the packages. But because the only ones I've ever had go bad were the non-fat ones, not the whole fat ones, the whole milk. The whole milk powders have always been good for me. It's always been the non-fat ones that have gone bad. They've either got a nasty taste, which they're not that great to begin with because, well, they're non-fat. You know, take the fat out of something, you lose the flavor. And then sitting for a long period of time in the packages they came in, they got really hard and just gross. And so I never buy non-fat powdered milk anymore. I always stick with the whole milk powder. It tastes best, and I notice that it has a far better shelf life than the ones that they remove the fat from, which is supposedly supposed to make it last longer, which it doesn't. So anyway, I just wanted to give you an update on the butter powder, and don't forget to check out the links to the couple videos I mentioned down below. The reason I really like Hoosier Hill Farm is that for a powdered product, especially a dairy product, I would say it's very high quality, and they don't have the hormones in them like you're gonna find in a lot of your store-bought dairy products. And so look into it for yourself. I personally have been really happy with this. My 3 favorites when it comes to the milk, I've mentioned many times, is the Meyenberg whole goat milk powder, the Judy's whole milk powder, and the Hoosier Hill Farm whole milk powder. Those are the top 3 that I've used and been very happy with. So I recommend checking them out. I'll put some links to them down below so you can check it out for yourself and read up on it. And one thing that's really nice about Amazon in particular is that even if you don't buy through our links, it does help us out that way. But I do understand why people would prefer to buy things directly from the company. But at least if you go look on Amazon, you can read reviews that other people have to say, which is one reason why I didn't get the sour cream powder, because it didn't have the best reviews. But I've had some people comment and say they tried it and really liked it. So it's just going to all be a matter of choice. But we don't use a lot of sour cream, but I think it would be a nice thing to have on hand. So I might still give it a try and do an update on that down the road. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it gave you some more ideas as far as food storage goes, and or how to start using that real butter powder that you might have already stocked up on. And if you have started using your different powders, whether it be the cheese, the buttermilk, the butter, the sour cream, whatever it is, go ahead and share with us down below what you've done with it. Did it work for you? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Go ahead and share with us your experiences down below so we can learn, get some ideas from you as well. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.